There's this enormous climate solution hiding in plain sight. It's right there, inside the very buildings where we live and work. It's kind of the silent giant of climate change. And unlocking it means we have to solve a trillion-dollar question that's literally built into our walls. All right, to really wrap our heads around this, let's start with a number, a really big one. In a lot of countries, buildings are responsible for an incredible 40% of all energy use. And all that energy? Well, it translates directly into emissions. Our homes, our offices, our stores, they account for about 1/3 of all global greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, think about that for a second. That's actually more than the entire transportation sector combined. But here's where it gets kind of wild. The United Nations Environmental Program says we could slash that energy use by up to half. And we're not talking about some futuristic sci-fi invention. We're talking about technology that's already out there, widely available, right now. So, this all leads to the big question, right? The one we're going to tackle in this explainer. If the tech is literally sitting on the shelf, the savings are massive, and the climate impact is huge, then why on earth aren't we doing it? Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we've got to do a little investigating. And it turns out the whole problem really starts with the very structure of the building industry itself. It's kind of broken. So, take a look at this. It does a great job of showing how what we call the building industry isn't really one single thing. It's more like a long, fragmented chain of different specialists. You've got financiers, developers, designers, contractors, all the way to the owners and tenants. And here's the kicker. Every single one of them has their own goals, their own priorities. And you guessed it, those priorities often clash. Big time. For example, a developer is usually focused on one thing, keeping the initial construction cost as low as possible to make more profit. But the tenant, all they care about is having the lowest possible monthly energy bill. And those two goals, they're pulling in completely opposite directions. This whole mess actually has a name. It's called the split incentive, and it's one of the toughest hurdles in energy efficiency. To put it simply, the person who has to fork over the cash for, say, better windows or more insulation isn't the same person who gets to enjoy the lower energy bills. So what you end up with is this classic standoff. The building owner looks at it and says, why would I spend an extra 10 grand on a super efficient HVAC system if the tenant is the one who's going to save money on their electricity bill? And look, from their perspective, it's a totally logical question. But it's a logical question inside a system that's, well, completely illogical. But it's not just about the system's design. It's also about the people, the actual humans making the choices inside that system. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Researchers asked a bunch of building professionals what convinces them to even consider sustainable options. And the number one answer wasn't cost, or saving the planet, or even what the client wanted. No, it was simply their own personal know-how. Basically, did they even know how to do it in the first place? So when you have that lack of know-how, you get a serious lack of initiative. This chart does it all. Fewer than 10% of these professionals see their companies as leaders, as actually driving this change. The huge majority, they're just passive. They're sitting back, only adopting better practices when they're absolutely required to. And what does that create? Yep, a massive leadership gap. You've got this stalemate where architects are waiting for developers, developers are waiting for city regulators, and everyone's just waiting for someone else to make the first move. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. After hearing about all these roadblocks, it's pretty easy to feel a little bummed out. But this is where the whole story flips on its head. Because hiding behind this broken system is, and I'm not exaggerating, probably the single biggest climate opportunity we have right now. Just look at this chart from the IPCC. Seriously, let it sink in for a moment. Each of those bars is a different part of the economy. The taller the bar, the more potential it has to cut emissions. And the bar for buildings, it just dwarfs everything else. What this tells us is incredible. Our buildings offer the single biggest bang for our buck for cutting emissions. Cheaper and more effective than any other sector. Full stop. So the potential is just immense. The real question then is, how do we actually unlock it? We need a clear plan, a blueprint to fix this broken system and close that leadership gap. Okay, so one of the biggest tools we have is something called a deep energy retrofit, or DER for short. Now, this isn't just, changing a few light bulbs. This is a complete overhaul of the building.
We're talking upgrades to its envelope, that's the skin, the roof, the walls, plus electrifying heating systems, and just redesigning the whole thing for peak efficiency, all to cut energy use by at least 50%.
This picture just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got an old, leaky, energy hog of a building. On the right, it's that exact same building, but it's been transformed into a high-performance, super comfortable, modern space. And this isn't some one-off fantasy. This is what we could be doing for millions of buildings all over the globe. So how do we make this happen? Well, here's a 5-step plan that could change everything. First up, you got to measure everything. Set clear standards for how buildings perform. Second, put strong energy codes in place and actually enforce them. Third, make deep retrofits for our existing buildings a top priority. Number 4, and this is a big one, align the incentives. We have to fix that split incentive problem we talked about. And finally, number 5, train a new generation of leaders to fill that knowledge gap. And listen, the payoff here isn't just about saving energy. It goes so much deeper than that. We're talking about better places to live and work, healthier air to breathe, lower bills for families and small businesses, higher property values, and the creation of millions of good, skilled local jobs. I mean, who doesn't want that? These are benefits that literally everyone can support. And that brings us full circle. When you boil it all down, this isn't a technology problem. And honestly, it's not even really an economics problem. What we have is a systems problem. The tech is sitting on the shelf. The amazing rewards are just waiting for us. The only question left is, what is it going to take for us to finally decide to build a better system?